Hello, community. Let's set our dynamic market we constructed last time, positioning our new YouTube channel on computer science in the marketplace. Remember, this was the slide we left the last video. I showed you I'm one of 1,000 YouTubers on computer science artificial intelligence. I thought my competition would be maybe the MOOCs, the open online course providers like Coursera. Coursera provides more than 4,000 university courses online. Of course, they are fed by university. We had a look at Stanford University as a representative of this class, where we also have Stanford Online, which has an own YouTube channel. And of course, those course providers have their YouTube channel and have their channels behind the paywall, similar to Stanford. And we had a look at the hardware provider, software provider, NVIDIA, Google, AWS. And we looked that they also have their channels, but they also have their corporate campus, their corporate university, if you want. So behind their security, they have their own channel. And you can get an AWS certificate. You can get a course certificate from the open source providers. And of course, you can have a PhD from Stanford. And we looked at Databricks, a very interesting construct where they set out to become a cloud-based, collaborative data science, data engineering, and data analytics platform. For this reason, they developed within the Apache ecosystem. They further developed Spark, I'm going to tell you in a second, with Delta Lake and Delta sharing. So they have their own software packages, their technology if we want. And we had a very short look at PyTorch, of course, from a person called Mark, and TensorFlow from Google and Keras APIs. And now it's time to go on. So here we are with Databricks on Google Cloud, Databricks on AWS, and Azure Databricks, where you can design AI with Apache Spark-based analytics. And as you can see here, very easily, what is our goal? Our goal is to be in the market of business intelligence. All the data of a company analyzed by your Databricks system on one of the three main cloud platforms, our three global players, Google Cloud, AWS, and maybe Azure. So we're in the business here, or they are in the business of business intelligence, what I call BI by AI, business intelligence by artificial intelligence. Let's have a look at this in a little more detail. I just told you that here we have our hardware provider, they have the three cloud platforms, and the interesting thing is that there's a beautiful partnership right now, that you have the Databricks functionality on each of the three cloud platforms on the hardware provider. Everybody wants to have Databricks system on their platform. So beautiful. If you're a company and you have one of the AWS services or Google Cloud services, you just can go on and also install the Databricks. They have the tech implementation team for their client beautifully. Now, what is the difference if you look at the Databricks system and here the hardware software system? And there is a significant one. I'll give you a hint. Let's look at Apache Spark. Spark was developed at the University of Berkeley in 2009. Apache Spark is 100% open source right from the beginning under the Apache Software Foundation. And Databricks are committed open development model. And they have internet powerhouses at Netflix, Yahoo, and eBay have developed Spark at a massive scale in the petabyte of data cluster. And they have 250 plus organizations in their open source community about big data. This is an amazing business model. Think about it. If you start with an open source coming out from Stanford or Berkeley from a university, and then you have a small company, your beautiful company grows, and you are open source, and a lot of your clients say, hey, beautiful, so we are not dependent on one of the main player here, and we do not have to take licenses for applying their software functionality. No, we have our own PySpark, the Python derivative, if you want, from Spark, in the Apache ecosystem, and we have here for what we had the database systems now Delta Lakes and Delta sharing functionality in the cloud, beautifully interlinked with our AI algorithm. So this open source resource was of extreme value to the company. And if you have now suddenly your development partner in the open source development are your clients like eBay or Netflix or some big global commercial banks, then you really have the application directly connected to your client needs. And this is what I think they achieved beautifully, where you see here in the lower block, we will come to this in a second. So let's have a look at this. If you have an open source system where you provide some technology, some intelligence, software, hardware, that hardware you can run with one of those three clouds, so we're really open, and your clients help you in the development, they tell you exactly what they need and you can develop it with their help. This is a real powerful platform, a complete other kind of platform that the hardware provider here have. But this is for the development of the system from unique value. And think about it. Since it's open source and you know universities are always broke. They have no money at all. Okay, Stanford University may be an exception, but a normal classical US college, public college, they have no money to spare. So open source development, great, beautiful. So they have really created an ecosystem, if you look at this, where you include academia. You have your company and you have your clients on a common development platform. Beautifully. Now, next step. Yeah, this is just with our clients. And I just want to show you the relation because maybe this is a not so optimal presentation. If you really want to see the scale here, let's look here at Stanford here with the PhD students and Stanford Online. Let's look here at the Databricks company. I think they have about 4,000 employees, 4,000 plus employees. And then think about the customer base that they are cooperating with and the resources this company can now access giving its specific partnership. This is really interesting. They operate here on what they call the petabyte business. Amazing amount of data, really, I think, a unique position and really nice strategically positioned from the market position, also in a very dynamic market. How could they achieve this? They had, again, Spark in the Apache ecosystem, and then they also focused on the data side, if you want. They always focused on how to get the data out of the databases to the data lakes, and then finally to the lakehouse architecture, to the Delta Lake, and to the Delta sharing functionality. Now, look at this beautiful construct we have here in the upper side of the screen. Now look at PyTorch. Where is PyTorch today? Now, with PyTorch, there was a person called Mark in September of 2022, and he more or less announced he would like to take PyTorch also in the open source environment. I guess you know now why. So let's look at this comment. So Meta is shifting the management of PyTorch to the newly formed PyTorch Foundation, which will be under the oversight of the Linux Foundation, as announced on September 12. And the PyTorch Foundation will have board members from Meta, from AMD, Amazon, Google, Microsoft, and NVIDIA. We knew this player. And now this is interesting because a newspaper article said Meta's decision not to carry PyTorch alone also reflects the opinion of the open source community not to become dependent on software that comes with strings attached. Whether that's affiliation with a particular company, this one, or with a software license that limits freedom. I thought this was a really harsh sentence, but okay. But you know what's interesting? If you look at the press release by Mark, you know who, one of the PyTorch Foundation main priorities will be to keep a clear separation between the business and the technical governance of PyTorch. Now, this is interesting, and this is different, for example, like an example I showed you before. So the business stays with Meta, and the technical development is outsourced to the open source community. Yes, that's an interesting branching. So has someone in AI to discover a new pattern? Well, you might say the open source community has second thoughts about some affiliation with particular companies. If your business depends on it, well, I wonder why somebody would have open thoughts about such a company. So let's go on. I am here, one of 1,000 YouTubers on the topic computer science and artificial intelligence. And I now get an understanding of my ecosystem where I could have my clients, where I could have some viewers, or maybe, as it will turn out in a later video, I have no viewers at all. Why is this? Yes, okay, this is self-promotion. If you're interested to learn more about Delta Lake functionality, the Lakehouse architecture, how to code this, Delta Lake for data streaming, you remember Kafka and this stuff, about self-learning, data scientists, data engineering with PySpark and Delta Lake. Even if you just use Parquet, you can use this framework even if you're only in the terabyte business. I'm working only with terabytes. And I can tell you, I moved from Parquet to a much nicer data structure, and it has advantages. And you can even try it out if you are not familiar with it. I have here a video on a free Databricks Community Edition, where they provide you with a Jupyter notebook and a free cluster infrastructure, where you have PySpark and everything in Delta installed, and you can try it out and you can get familiar with it. Or if you're interested in the new Pandas API in Spark 3.2, single node, multi-node cluster structure, I have some videos for you. But in general, like I say here, I try also in my other videos to sometimes present the code in PyTorch and sometimes switch over to TensorFlow, especially when I use the Keras functionality, because I think this is one of the main highlights of TensorFlow. Okay. Enough about me. We were talking about the dynamic market if you want to position your new or established YouTube channel, let's say in the topic of computer science. And as always, you have to keep the suspension high. Maybe you want to subscribe to my channel. This is my next video when I'm going to talk about time to market and which advantages we have as YouTuber compared to the other institutions I just showed you. I say thank you, and I see you in the next video.